Welcome to Arkansas Basketball Recap. I'm Daniel Price. That's Jacob Price. This is the preseason episode that we promised. Now, it's really, really close to. This is like the most preseason of all preseasons. That we played 2 exhibition games. We got games coming up very soon, and so we're just gonna talk just briefly about what the expectations are for the season. Maybe a little bit into the preseason exhibition games. And the roster construction, we haven't talked. I went back and sort of scanned through the last episode we did. And we talked about how great it was going to be to have Jalen Williams back. And, maybe Note even comes back. Probably not, but we thought, could. He had the eligibility. He could have. None of that happened. Of course, I didn't anticipate after that game, Jalen Williams, the last game against Duke, Jalen Williams leaving. He did. You have a roster that, minus, with the exceptions of Devo and Kamani, it's all different.
Yeah, it looks like, I've got a bad mind for names anyway. It takes me like 3 games to be able to, just be able to automatically remember everybody's name, and I'm having to relearn it. Right now I'm going, the bald guy, the guy with the big hair.
Yeah.
But
I remember those names. That's Jordan Walsh and Anthony Black. I got it.
Yeah. Anthony Black's pretty easy to remember, but
yeah. So, we watched some of the exhibition games.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else. Depending on how into it you guys are, but there are Arkansas played a European tournament and they played 3 or 4 games over there. Were really successful in all of them. Only one was really even a challenge where they were down in the first half. You should go watch those games. They're on YouTube. It's not the best video in the world. Some of them are worse than others, but it's a good look at the team. They look, we'll get to the Texas exhibition game, but after watching the European games, I was stoked because I was like, are we the best team that's ever existed? These guys look, it's one of the craziest looking teams if you haven't seen it yet. These guys are all, they're young, so they're thin. They don't have strong bodies with the exception of Kamani, and even he looked way improved. Kamani looked way better than last year in that, at least in those 4 games. And, but the rest of the guys, they're all just pterodactyls, these long guys that have wingspans that are longer than their already tall height, and they just keep coming. Every guy he subs in is exactly, it's like an exact replica of the guy before, with the exception of, what are the twins? Those 2 guys.
Yeah, they're big. Yeah, Mikal Mitchell and Michael Mitchell. I don't know.
And they're good stand-ins for Kamani too. But
the exhibition games in Europe, they looked incredible. I think that you saw glimpses to kind of go into. Now, I know we played at Rogers State and just eviscerated them. You would hope that that's what would happen. In Europe, they won games. They looked great, but I think you saw glimpses of things that might have made the Texas exhibition game not a complete surprise, which was when you heard Musselman talk, he talked about...
If you don't know, they just played yesterday an exhibition game against Texas that wasn't televised. You could listen to it on a broadcast from Texas,
which I did.
I actually didn't get to watch that. I was doing something else, or didn't get to listen to it. But they got their butts kicked.
It was 60 to 90.
Yeah, and they lost by 30. So I have no idea. Dan will be telling me first time. We didn't talk about it because we wanted to save it, but I have no idea what happened there. That was a surprise to me. I thought it wouldn't have been a surprise if we lost because we're 10 and Texas is 12 ranked, although the rankings at this point are useless. It's based on nothing. These teams have never played. Our team especially has never played. So, together in a real game. So those rankings taken with a grain of salt, but still it's a best guess of educated people. And so it seems like these teams are evenly matched. It was in Texas's place, so that gives them a little advantage. They're also a little bit, I think, we're younger than them. So it wouldn't have surprised me that if we had lost, although I was hoping, I was thinking coming off of those European games, maybe we'd go in there and smoke them, and we actually are a top 5 team or something. But looks like we do have some youthful problems. And like I said, what did you hear when you were listening to it?
Well, if you listen to Muss after the European trips, he talked about over and over and over again that he needed certain guys that are long, that you were talking about, to be more committed to rebounding. They should be able to rebound. They got to rebound better, block out. Now, there's exceptions. Come on, he's always going to rebound. There are guys like that. But he needs all those guys to rebound. He needs the guards to rebound. And the big thing he was hammering over, even in those games you won, was he was always saying too many turnovers. And they have a goal of 9 turnovers a game. That's what they want. They don't want to get into double-digit turnovers. And they consistently were. And if you watch those games, it's you can see it where you have like a bunch of ridiculous athletes. I mean, there's not going to be any. There might be teams that are as athletic as Arkansas. There ain't no college teams way more athletic than the guys Arkansas has put on the floor. That is a crazy athletic group of guys. And you got 5 freshmen coming in. Nick Smith, Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh. Those guys are all going to play big minutes. Trevon Brazile is just a crazy athlete. Jalen Graham's a crazy athlete. Ricky Council Jr. is a crazy athlete. You have all these athletes. Devo, that he's an athlete, but he's also just wild. Mm-hmm. He does some wild things. And what you can see is them just sort of playing this like loose. When you go out and play, even when you're playing pickup ball and stuff. You play some guys that are just crazy athletic, and they're trying to do all the things, right? And they're just more athletic than you, and they out-athlete you, and just crazy passes and oops everywhere and stuff. And you saw some of that, and you saw that result in turnovers. They're not disciplined. Mm-hmm. They're crazy athletic. They're good basketball players. They're just not disciplined because they're young, and it's rare for young players to be super disciplined. That comes over time. And I think what I heard in the Texas game was not a much more athletic team, not necessarily a better team as far as talent, but a team that was far more disciplined. As much as a team could sound undisciplined, which is a weird thing because I wish I could have seen it, man, it sounded disciplined. And they had 23 turnovers. That's undisciplined for sure. Every time the broadcast, it was just over. And I'm talking about like open court turnovers, like turnovers that result. They had 23. I think it was 23 turnovers resulting in 26 points. But they lost by 30. They also let Texas, and with this kind of athletic guys, dude, like you can't have this. They let Texas have 11 offensive rebounds in the first half. You just can't have that. And those were the things. But what was also encouraging about it was afterwards, Musselman in a regular season game, you get to something like that happens, he would sound the way that Musselman sounds when things like that happen. And it wasn't like that at all. It's like he knew it was going to happen. He kind of stated that it was going to happen. He wasn't surprised it happened. He wasn't angry or upset or didn't sound frustrated. He sounded like he was more like, yeah, it was good for them. They needed to see that. It's like he totally anticipated it. They were down by 10 at halftime. One of the reporters asked him, did you go into halftime and be like, hey, we're only down 10, like we're going to fix some things? And he said, no. This is not a quote, but he essentially said, like, no, I knew the game was over. We weren't going to win that game. He knew it at halftime. That it was that, and because he's like, there wasn't like 1 or 2 things to fix. We weren't doing any of the things that we needed to do. And he said it was the most undisciplined 40 minutes of basketball he's ever coached. But it wasn't like super negative even when he was saying it. And he said he's like, it was good for them. It shows them that we have a long way to go, like how far we have to go. And he seems very confident that they're going to get there. It doesn't make me think that we're not a top 10 team in the country, any of those things. It makes me think that we've got to take all of that athleticism and all of that youthful zeal and figure out how to discipline it and harness it. And honestly, if there's anyone to do that, it's Musselman.
Yeah, you still feel good about because in the past, especially when Musselman first got here, it seemed like every season it was like, where is he going to find the bodies that he can put out there? And that's why we've had like notoriously tight rotations, like 7 guys, maybe 8. And we had like undersized, forwards and stuff.
And I think he's still going to do that because Musselman's a 7-8 guy rotation guy. And I think that by the midway point of the season, by the time we get to conference play, it will be a 7 or 8 man, probably an 8-man rotation. But also for Musselman, now he's not forced into any of that. And if you want to get in, there's so many guys that could play. If you want to get into a Musselman rotation, which is tight, guess what you're not going to be able to do? You can't turn the ball over, and you're going to need a rebound. And I'm guessing the guys that make it into that rotation are the guys that do that the least. Like, they rebound the most and turn the ball over the least. That's how you get in that rotation.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have all of these guys that are not interchangeable, but so many bodies that are similar, and you have a wealth of these athletic, long guys that can score, because it's like we've always talked about this with what makes Alabama the greatest football team is that when the reason they almost never have let-ups in the fourth quarter and stuff, even if they're blowing a team out, is because when they put their second-tier guys in, those second-tier guys know that if they, even though there's no point to it, they're up by 3 touchdowns, if Nick Saban sees a guy not put effort in on a play, defensively or offensively, there's 4 guys on that team that are all-American, number one. They would be the starter on most other teams, and they're ready to come in there and take your spot. So everybody plays with maximum effort because you know your spot's not safe.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, he didn't. I mean, he basically was just trying to make, we always talk about this, like he's got these ingredients and they haven't been perfect, and he's trying to make the best meal out of what he, with what he has. This year, it seems like he has a little bit more options, what I mean? And so, you don't worry about the talent, you just worry about, can he get these guys to grow up quickly? Because even in Europe, that was the team that they struggled against, and unfortunately, I think it's the most annoying game to watch on there. I think it was the second one. The court was weird, the camera was weird, there were some problems with the feed, but overall, it's worth watching because when you look at the team, it was like our guys were so much more athletic than them, but I mean, it was some of these guys were like 17 and a half years old playing against the European guys. Some of them were like, you could just tell, like their bodies, their hairlines, they're like 33 years old, and they've got so much experience and weight and just old man strength that they just were bullying them for the first half of that game. And I mean, you're going to get into some. There's a big difference between a just out of high school kid and you go start playing some of these teams if they've got a 4th-year senior or 5th-year senior guy. Those bodies are so different, and even the muscle memory and the strength is so different that you can't just rely on pure I'm bouncy. You know what I mean? You're going to have to get fundamental if you want to beat those kind of guys.
Yeah, I think looking at the roster and looking at the guys and watching some film, and he went with the same lineup starting wise in both Rogers State game and the Texas game. I don't know if that will continue. You can't turn the ball over like that and not rebound like that. And probably how to say it that way. I do think Nick Smith Jr., Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, and Trevon Brazile are, at the end of the day, are probably all going to start. I think that other spot could be Jalen Graham, maybe could be Ricky Council. If we're not getting rebounds and stuff, it might be Kamani, it might be one of the Mitchell twins. It's hard to say. So I think that there's some flexibility there. Nick Smith looks like potentially one of the best freshmen to ever put on a Razorback jersey. Mm-hmm. He's probably a one and done guy. When you're listening, and he didn't play really much the second half of that game, but he sounded like a bright spot, and he's a scorer, and this will be nice for Arkansas. Like, he's a shot getter. He's a good 3-point shooter, but he's a good mid-range jump shooter. He's good at getting to the rim. He's good at getting fouled, and he's a good defender. I do think that understanding these are freshmen, because people are going to be like really high, on Nick Smith, and I think that Nick Smith will be I think he's the guy that will only have 1 year. I think there's a chance that Anthony Black and Jordan Walsh, depending on how the season goes, I think that they could be around. But
I was going to say, that's the thing that's scary about this group is,
if you look at draft boards right now, Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, and Nick Smith Jr. are all on mock drafts right now, all 3 of them. It depends on Anthony Black. I love watching him. I think Anthony Black is a guy that, 6-7 point guard, but I don't think Anthony Black he's not going to average 15 points a game even. That's not what he's going to do. He'll develop into that player at some point. But I'll make this prediction right now. I'll go Arkansas predictions. Anthony Black will have a triple-double at some point in this season in points, rebounds, and assists.
He's a good rebounder.
Yeah,
at that position.
He's that guy. I love the way he's super unselfish. He just takes what's given to him offensively. He's a night. I mean, he's young and there's lapses and stuff, but that's not a guy you want guarding you. If you're a wing player, if you're another player, a team's guard, you don't want that. Jordan Walsh is super fun. I think that Jordan Walsh is a guy that will get by the end of the year. He's going to be very different than the beginning of the year. Nick Smith, I think, is just going to come out and be the team's leading scorer from the jump. He's going to be the best player on the team from the jump. That's just who he is. I think you're going to see Jordan Walsh. At first, you'd be like, yeah, he's good. He's pretty good. I think he'll be like a huge piece down the road. I see that. That's how I see him shaping up. I think once he figures some stuff out, is going to be big. I think Trevon Brazile is going to be spurty. I think that he's going to have games that are just insane.
I'll make a prediction. I think to match your prediction, I think Brazil's going to have. He's going to have one 35-point game this year.
Yeah,
because he's the kind of guy. He looks like he's one of those zone players that when he gets in the zone, they're all going in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if they're 3-pointers, if they're freaking falling away side corner shots. Like once he gets in that zone, I mean, one of the games in Europe, he got there. I think did he miss a shot? I think he had like.
He had 28 points.
But I think the main thing was I don't think he missed a shot.
Yeah.
He might have been 100%, or if he did, he missed like one shot. Mm-hmm. It was crazy. But and he can benefit from the other players because he's kind of like that sneaky player who's not going to be the focus of the defense, but if he gets hot, he's as good as anybody out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm excited. I anticipate, I'll be honest, even after getting your butt kicked in an exhibition game,
the 30 points is scary. That's a lot.
It's a lot, but he mailed it in. He must have been played. It was, like I said, Nick Smith didn't hardly play the second half. Like, he was putting all kinds of different combinations out there. He was not trying to make it a game, really. He was trying to get a look at some stuff. I think at first he was, but like by the time, at some point, he was like, nah. But I'll be honest. With this team, I'm going to take every loss very hard. So, because that's the kind of expectations it is. Like, every loss is going to, and we're going to lose, especially not just because, every team does, but we're young, and we're going to probably lose one that you feel, or two, or whatever, that you feel like you shouldn't. And Jake's going to be all pessimistic and forget that Musselman's teams are always, way better at the end than they are at the beginning. But I would say, as far as my expectations are Elite Eight, and then we'll see. But if we I want, it would feel like a little bit of a disappointment with this roster, because you look at this roster. I know Note and Williams are tough to replace for sure, but dude, this roster is better than last year's roster. Yeah, so you feel like
if they had Williams, it'd be a totally different story. If you had that anchor.
Oh, if it was Williams, if your starting lineup was Nick Smith, Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, Trevon Brazile, and Jalen Williams, Jalen, dude, I know you're going to be sitting on the bench in Oklahoma City, dude. I don't begrudge you for getting your bag, but
yeah,
dude,
it would have been sick, but. Because that's what we need. We need that leader and that anchor, and
I think Devo's going to try to be that.
But he's just not in the right position. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he's also Devo just isn't that guy. It doesn't seem like, you know what I mean? He's great, and he's even taken over a few games, and he's made some big shots at clutch times.
He's great, and he's always going to play defense. He hustles. He's not going to take plays off.
But he doesn't seem like the guy that wants to.
He's not calming.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to need somebody. So who's going to be the guy in this team that calms everyone down?
He also there's certain guys like Williams, and honestly, Portis was this guy, and this is why I'm so thrilled for Portis that he is having because he could have such a generic career as just a quasi decent big man, But the fact that he's gone there and they love how weird he is, his weird dribbling style, his weird shot, his buggy eyes, he's the kind of guy that the fans have a relationship with in a way that when he gets a block or when he makes a three, it energizes them in a different way than if Devo. Like, and Williams was that guy. Like when Williams, there were several times where he would hit a big three when we'd be like struggling, and then he's pumping the crowd up. You know what I mean? Or he gets a block and he pumps, and it'll be interesting to see who that guy. Somebody's got to develop that relationship with the team and the fans to. And like I said, Devo's just not really that guy. I don't think.
To me, it does seem that Nick Smith Jr. is just a little bit. I've heard him talk and stuff. He does actually seem very mature. I mean, there is some real maturity on the team, and he's going to be the best offensive player on the team, and maybe he can be that guy. You know, and he's not a. I mean, he's a one and done talent, but he's not a selfish player. I think that he could be that guy. We'll see if that happens.
I think Kamani will give you a little bit of that. He's just not as talented as Williams was, so he's not going to have as many opportunities from like hitting threes. And like when a big man hits a three, it's just exciting. But Kamani's hustle will bring that out. There's going to be moments where Kamani gets a block and then another block and then rips a rebound away from somebody, and that'll pump the crowd up. But we'll see. But we'll see. Somebody's going to have to develop into sort of a emotional leader.
All right, well, let's leave it there, and we will be back in a week because the first game is Monday, November 7th, so we'll be back in a week breaking down the first game.
Sounds good.
All right, man, I'm stoked.
Like it, subscribe it, share it with your friends.
Yeah.
Let them, just a couple of dudes chilling talking about the Razorbacks.
That's right. All right, we'll see you guys next week.